How to create your own £1,000,000 message, or as my recent currency conversion says, 1.235 million US dollars. So either way, I think we can all agree that's not a bad thing, right? It's better than selling chump change on the corner, 5 and dime. How you doing? My name's Daryl. I'm with VanillaSoft. It's your first time here. Welcome to the show. If you're a repeat visitor, thank you so much for joining us. Very grateful to have you back. Every month, we try to hit a big topic, thought leadership topic, what's going on, trends, strategies, and we're fortunate often to bring in some subject matter experts that are way smarter than I am on the issues at hand. This month, we're changing up a little bit. Still thought leadership, but I was inspired very recently, end of August, when Daniel Disney actually introduced his book, and it's called The £1,000,000 Message. And I had the fortune to be able to preview it before it went to the publisher and provide an advanced testimonial, a testimonial that was earned, not just given willy-nilly. I put much thought into writing the testimonial as I sat on the deck at my cottage looking over the lake, drinking an adult beverage. So, you know, I was very calm, introspective, and relaxed. And it was a really fantastic read. And not only was it a good read, it's a reflection of the individual himself that I've had the chance to get to know over the last couple of years. And he's just a high quality person. And it was at that moment in time after I sent Daniel the testimonial that I had an epiphany moment. And I said, I have so many questions about Daniel that I want to ask, but I bet you, my audience, have those questions too, because chances are you're sitting there you're in the trenches, you're selling every day, you have certain career goals and aspirations, and you really want to understand how someone like Daniel has gotten from the position he's in now, working backwards to where he was, which is probably where you're at now, as a regular everyday sales development rep. How does somebody navigate that? How does somebody become a subject matter expert? What's the impact on them as an individual? How do you grow your career? How do you get engagement? How do you leverage that engagement? How do you jump from being someone who's just, shall we say, frequent or to the point of being prolific on social media, to getting followers, to getting speaking gigs, to getting, engagements to share your knowledge? How do you do that? I mean, that's a pretty cool career path, right? So this month's big strategy issue is really more of what I call an unplugged. It's an unplugged session where we're going to use Daniel as a case study. And along the way, we're also going to look at his book, because that's another way that you can leverage, another tool you can leverage to physically achieve your goals. So that's it. That's what we're doing today. It's going to be fun. So with that, let's kind of get into some housekeeping. Let's talk about the ground rules. What you need to know is that everybody here is in listen only mode. Fair enough. So I can't hear you. That's kind of cool. We are recording this, so we're going to play this back on demand. And so if after watching it, you're like, holy smokes, Sally or George or Sam or Susan really need to see this, because this is where they're at in their career. This is what they want to do. Then you can share this link with them. That'll be available on our VanillaSoft.com website literally within 24 hours, if not sooner. I've got the world's best crew who are really good at turning this stuff around in a hurry. In fact, often it's not the video that takes us time. It's actually waiting for the transcriptions that we do for every single one of these. The other thing is, because of that, you give us permission, all right? That it's being recorded. And last, if you have questions for us, you can send them to us a couple different ways. One is you can do it, of course, on Twitter. Just send them to @VanillaSoft. Another way is there's a chat window. So if you look at the chat window in front of you, you should see, you can log in as guest or as your own name. You don't need to have an account, and you can participate that way. So with that, let's meet the actual man himself. Mr. Dan Disney, are you there, sir?
I am here. Thank you so much for having me, Daryl.
and you look like you're in a hotel room. Are you in a hotel room, Dan?
I am in a hotel room, the wonderful MGM Grand in Detroit. My first ever visit to the US for social selling work. So very exciting.
Yeah, because you've been to the U.S. before. We see your exploits every year if you take your annual leave and you go to Disney World,
My,
Disneyland,
my,
Disney
my
World, I
other
guess it
home,
is.
Disney World.
Your other home,
um,
exactly. But this
yeah,
is the
no,
first time you've
we
been this
enjoy our
far north.
holidays.
Detroit, of course, is the high tech mecca. I mean, everybody knows that. So, welcome to the Motor City. I grew up just outside of Detroit on the Canadian side, so I know the area well. That's fantastic. Welcome to Detroit. I'm so glad you're there. Um, let's talk a bit about you. We're going to get to the specifics, but for those who don't know Dan Disney, if this is the first time meeting you, you know, just who are you, dude? I don't need your life story yet. We're going to get into that, but tell us what you do and why we should care.
I mean, there's three things I do. I'm a social selling speaker and trainer. So my mission is to help salespeople, sales teams, and companies learn how to leverage social media and very specifically LinkedIn to its full potential to sell. And the other thing I do is I've founded and run the Daily Sales, which is there to sort of entertain, motivate, and educate salespeople around the world. So that's me in a nutshell, and no relation to Walt Disney either.
No, and I love that you always have to say that. No relationship to Walt Disney. Although I would love to have the family fortune, right? I understand that. All right, so let's kind of hop into it a little bit, which is we're talking about what's going to cover today. Right, we're going to cover the first half of today's discussion. Is going to be Daniel and I having a conversation about Daniel, and then we're going to get into the £1,000,000 message. And as you see here, we're talking about how your prospects they may not be responding to your outreach, how you can use templates that work. And Dan in his book gives you 25 templates, and these are not just kind of here go. He goes into detail on each one of those, why they work, how you can apply them. Like it's a master class, and it's very easily consumed. He's going to give you some personal branding techniques that he's used because that's been part of his journey. So he's going to speak from personal experience, not just a textbook or something that he Googled. This is what he's done. And then any Q&A we might have, we'll, if we have time for that, because I know we're like jam-packed. We have people have submitted a lot of questions in advance. I asked you to, you did that. Thank you very much. We're going to get to that. So that's what we're going to do today. With that, let's kind of get into the how this all began, how this webinar began, which was, so how do you create a £1,000,000 LinkedIn message? And that's the book he's just launched, and it's available on Amazon. So you can go there and check it out and buy it. It's a very affordable purchase. It's a fantastic purchase. And the whole premise, I won't give it away, but the premise is that you'll hear him talk about how Daniel was able to use LinkedIn to as part of to basically to initiate, to connect with this target audience and initiate a sale that ultimately resulted in him closing a million Great British pound deal. So that's pretty big, 1.235 US dollars. So, but I know we have lots of conversations. Daniel and I have debated this before. Is it social selling? Is it social marketing? Is it social selling versus cold calling? So Daniel and I are friends in this call, but we began as adversaries, and I think Daniel will agree that I totally won that debate. We're not going to even go in there. He's just humble pie. But today, things have evolved. It's social selling. It's the phone. It's the email. It's all these touches, and it's a full channel sales cycle. But you need to have full channels. Some of you are afraid to use the phone. Some of you are not great at social. Get it. So today we're going to help you out with the social side. So that's how do you create the £1,000,000 message. But I want to start at the very beginning. That's where I want to start with Daniel. So starting at the beginning, let's ask the really huge question. Who is Daniel Disney? There's that. So let's start. Let's just get into this. This is my best Larry King. I'm having fun here. And there's people right now going, who's Larry King? Look it up. So let's start with the beginning, Dan. You were a sales guy. And if I understand, you got your first job in sales where you got at the local DIY store and you were on the floor. And eventually you got, recognized and you were put in front of the, if I recall, the kitchen. Here you need a kitchen. Is that right? You want to do that? And so now you're interacting with a very personal solution. And that was your first retail for many of us, mine as well. Retail was your first exposure to selling, correct?
100% correct. My first job, I was on the checkouts on weekends, and within a couple of weeks, the sales manager from the kitchen department sort of saw something in a very young Dan, and pulled me into the sort of kitchen showroom sales department. Gave me a couple of days of training, showed me how to design kitchens for people, and kind of let me loose. And very quickly, I found it was something that I truly enjoyed and loved. And whilst I was a lot younger and more arrogant perhaps back then, I thrived in that environment, and it was really it was a strong foundation for my career in sales, because retail is an interesting one. You're not generating leads in the sort of traditional B2B sense. You're waiting for people to come in, but you then have to still go out there and start those conversations. There are people browsing around, and a lot of my colleagues at the time would just be sat at their desks hoping that these people would come to them. But I'd be out there starting those conversations, and it was a good foundation gearing me up for future sort of B2B sales with cold calling and door knocking, and obviously eventually social selling.
So how old were you when you started doing that gig, that retail gig?
I was 16. It's the sort of legal age you can start work here in the UK.
Right. So classic high school part-time job, getting your feet wet, and it was a sales job. Now that evolved. So when what was your first full-time job? Because I've heard you say multiple times, door knocking. All right. So was your first full-time job going door to door? And if so, what were you selling?
Yeah, no, door knocking came in, I think, on my sort of third role. So I did this part-time whilst at college. Although I say part-time, I was still working 30 to 35 hours a week. I was doing nearly every evening during the week after college, and every weekend. I had a lot of my friends, out and about, doing things in the evenings, telling me to come out and socialize. But I genuinely enjoyed work, and I really kind of wanted to make the best of it. So I nearly worked full-time anyway. But then following that, I got a full-time opportunity, again, selling kitchens for a much bigger company, and started to work a bit selling to trade as well, which was sort of a very soft introduction into sort of B2B. And then after that was when I was introduced to door knocking, which to this day is probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done. I think for anyone who has had the opportunity to actually go out and physically knock on doors to sell, I don't think there's a better way to really cut your teeth in sales.
What were you, if you don't mind me asking, what were you selling when you're doing the door-to-door thing?
So sort of TV packages. So we have Sky and
Gotcha.
Virgin here in the
Yep.
UK. I'm sure it's
Gotcha.
different in the US.
Yeah,
But
similar.
yeah, so TV packages in some rough areas.
So it's so wild how much our paths are parallel, because I worked. I'm a computer geek. My actual education, my degree, I'm a computer programmer. You may not know that, but that is what my education is in. But in high school, I put myself in doing retail, where I started off. I was selling computers. Believe it or not, the first computer I was selling was the VIC-20, the Commodore VIC-20, much before your years, in the local department store. And then I moved up to a specialty stereo and electronics store, which was just for a high school kid. That was awesome. Go to this high-end sound store with all the electronics. At the time, I'm selling quality high-end VCRs and big screen TVs, which in those days probably meant like 32 inches, and computers and whatnot. So it was that, and then went to school and did more retail to put myself through school like you. And then my first job out, I was tired of computers and high tech, and I'm like, I can't do this. Where else can I go? And someone said to me, you might be good in sales. I'm like, well, I got a sales background. So my first job was going door to door knocking on the business side, selling photocopiers, and like you said, some rough neighborhoods, and you learn a lot. So I get that. So you're right. That is the most real you'll ever get with rejection, and overcoming that first 30 seconds to establish a rapport. And in your case, I'm sure, like mine, I had a lot of doors slammed in my face, and I was called some not nice things. And so people are making assumptions about you, and that's a tough journey. Yet despite that experience, you continued on in sales. So where did you go after that door-to-door gig?
Yeah, so after doing that for a while, and look, rejection's hard. It never gets easier. Even in social selling, you will still get rejection. It doesn't go away in sales. It's a bit more brutal when they're physically throwing a door in your face or hurling abuse. But as a salesperson, if you are genuinely kind of motivated to get the sale, you just move on to the next person. After doing that for a while, I then went into the B2B sector, and that's where I started to kind of get into traditional selling. So I started cold calling, and I used to make hundreds of cold calls a day for many years. And again, similar to door knocking, that was an amazing experience. You're still going up against the same sort of rejections, but I liked the fact that you could just sit there and just dial and just keep trying, and you could try the same people several times. It was, the opportunities were there. You just had the chance to kind of mine away and find these sort of golden nuggets. So yeah, I did cold calling, selling a mixture of kind of tech software products. Did that for a while, and that's where it sort of slowly then started to evolve, where social started to slowly introduce itself, and LinkedIn started to appear on my radar, and that's kind of really where a lot changed. I'd gone from years and years traditional selling, door knocking, cold calling, and suddenly there was this social media sort of network that had my prospects and customers on. And it was a bizarre thing because it was a professional social network. I'd used Facebook for friends and family, but suddenly it was kind of this mixture of both. And I found it fascinating, but I also saw the opportunity in that I could connect to them and form this sort of social professional relationship. Then I could message them and talk to them. And then the sort of world opened of actually I can share content and start to earn credibility and give value through sharing content. And that, for me, as you can tell, is where it really kind of blew up in my mind, where I saw this massive opportunity, which obviously is now thriving in the kind of modern sales environment.
All right, so I want to stop there for a second. I want to come back to that area where you slowly discover the power of LinkedIn. I want to table that. We're going to come back to that, but I want to go back because we all have influencers in our life. Like for example, nobody in my life was in high tech. Nobody in my life was in sales. Right, I come from a very blue collar manufacturing background. So when you have somebody who you connect with, who can help guide you, it makes a dramatic difference on your career path and your decisions you make. There's a lot of people right now who are in sales, maybe the first or second time, and they're going, is this the career for me? Did Dan ever think about leaving sales? What kept him in sales? So I guess my first question for you is, who was a big influencer in your career path when it comes to sales? And then after that, did you ever think about, before the whole LinkedIn and social thing kind of started emerging, did you ever think about leaving the profession?
Yeah, so this is a good question, and something I talk about very lightly. I don't think I've ever actually spoken about it on camera before, but my uncle was my big inspiration into sales. So when I was younger, he worked in sales for British Airways, and then he went to work with some of the leading retirement centres, really high-end retirement centres. And he lived this amazing, glamorous life. He genuinely loved working in sales. And what inspired me was that he wasn't the sort of salesperson I'd seen on TV, or the stereotype that my parents had kind of scared me about, dodgy salespeople. He genuinely liked helping people. He was a really good hearted person who just wanted to help. And what he was able to do is find that sales, you can take that into sales and be very successful. So my uncle was the one who kind of encouraged me and supported me in my first job at the DIY store, and supported me over the sort of first few years in sales. And it was amazing because I was able to sort of go to help and advice, and he would share stories of his successes, and he would love to listen to the stories of successes that I was having, and he would tell me the mistakes I was making or the areas I could improve on. It was, I was very lucky to have his influence very early on. I'm strong belief that he is the person who kind of guided me to be the salesperson I am today. And not saying I'm a great salesperson, I can't want to say that about myself, but I do try to go out and help people. That has always been my drive in sales, never to sell something to someone who doesn't need it, but to actually find people I can help with whatever product it is I'm selling. So he was such an influence, and unfortunately he passed away 5 years ago, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, was a very tough thing for me. And like I said, not something I talk about too much. It's not easy to talk about. But yeah, losing him was hard, and kind of hard now being able to do the stuff I do. And for those that have bought my book, the book is dedicated to him, and it felt amazing to be able to do that, to kind of just say thank you. In kind of the only reason I'm doing this stuff is because of the foundations that he laid many years ago. So that Darryl was my big influence. Sort of a tough
Before you go any
subject to talk
further,
about, but credit to him.
so what would his reaction be right now to where you are at in your career? What would his one or two like comments or insights be in your best uncle's personality?
He would tell me how proud he was of me, which he always did anyway. I know he'd say that again, and he would just encourage me to kind of keep pushing, that I had so much more I could achieve, which I always have in me. There's always this thing to strive. My aunt actually sent me a text at the end of last week, just saying how proud she is and how proud he must be looking down on me, which is a very touching thing to hear.
Now, what thing would he cry bollocks on that you're doing right now that he would disagree with you on? And you can have fun with that.
He would probably be kind of similar to you in squashing the whole social selling piece. He was a traditional salesperson. So I'm sure I would have the same debates with him, trying to educate him on sort of modern social selling, which would be just as fun.
Now, what's interesting is when I listen to you talk about your uncle, you talk about, and I see it in you. You talk about how it's the whole ability to help people. I'm not selling. I'm helping. I like people. If I can help you, if I can share knowledge, if I can do a how-to, if I can get you from here to there, let's do it. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's just go and do it. And I see that in you. So that's the first part. The second part that I see in you, you talked a little bit about when you started getting into LinkedIn, you got like so excited because it was like, I can actually use this as a channel to connect with people. And you had the same conversation when it comes to your cold calling, not just social, your cold calling, where you're like, I can test, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And nowhere in there did you look at it as a point of view of, when I help people, some will reject my help, and you didn't seem to take offense to that. And when you were testing the cold calling, knowing that you're going to get rejection, that style didn't work, or that approach didn't work, I got yelled at here, you didn't view it as, I hate this because I'm getting yelled at again, or I got rejected. And when you're doing the social testing, another channel to connect, you didn't react again that no, that didn't work. Oh my gosh, I got nailed. Don't do that again. Everywhere along the way, what I'm seeing with you, whether this is natural to your psyche, it's a family thing, maybe your uncle had it as well, or it's a choice, you seem to have an intentional mindset about the desire and the ability to help people be more successful, in that if I get dumped on along the way, oh well, I'm going to ignore that. It's water off the back, and I'm just going to keep on going because this is what I want to do. This is a mindset that you seem to uniquely have about helping, about achieving a goal, and everything else is just noise and you just ignore it. Is that something that you have, or is that something that he taught you to develop? Like, how did you get there? Because so many people struggle with this. I struggled with this, especially early in my career.
Yeah, so my uncle was a big influence on that. He was very driven and sort of never focused too much on the negatives. And I think, my family is a very positive family, and they kind of, I think that's rubbed off on me being a very positive person. Doesn't mean rejection doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean it's not like a horrible thing to happen. But I think I've kind of, again, you really train it over the years, but I'm just so focused on finding the people that I can help that I spend very little time worrying too much about those who do reject to perhaps what it is I'm doing. So it's not easy, and I work with loads of salespeople that struggle with that. And in my early days of the career, that was probably the hardest thing I had to sort of struggle with. As you can imagine, knocking doors, even in retail, you get rejected, and it's not a nice thing. But I guess what's always motivated me, and my uncle told me this very, very early on, is don't think or worry about that. Just remember there are people out there that need and want what you sell. You just need to go and find them. And it doesn't matter how many times you have to knock, how many phone calls you have to make, and even now in the modern sort of application, how many LinkedIn messages you have to send, how many posts you have to write. There are people out there that need what you sell. That's my biggest motivation. My job, my goal is to simply go out and find them and work with them to hopefully help in whatever way I can.
So would it be fair to say that you are making a conscious choice, an intentional decision that I'm just going to walk forward and, if you don't want my help, that's cool. I'm on to the next one, but it's a mindset.
It absolutely is. I mean, I still feel the negative feelings that come from rejection and things like that. But yeah, I choose to not dwell on it too much. So I think it's a choice. Again, it's not easy. I get that.
So then let me ask you a question. And I'll share, folks, where I went to Dan recently, and then I'll turn it around on Dan. A few months back, I had an individual who's a reputable. Let me rephrase that. I had an individual who is notable. I wouldn't necessarily say reputable, or he has a reputation in the social media world. And long story short, he played an underhanded game, in my opinion, where he tried to leverage my name and the people that I talk to every day by posting an article one fine Sunday about haters gonna hate. And he talks about, he gets all this hate mail and hate comments, and you got to ignore that, eye on the prize. And at the end, it was, don't worry, Daryl Prell, I respect you. And this all began because he had made an insinuation that he was showing like it was a Lamborghini a few weeks earlier, and then if you work for me and sell my product, you too could drive this Lamborghini. And I hate that. That's just BS. Don't play with people's emotions. Don't fool the young and impressionable. Just support them. Don't mislead them. Maybe the odd 1 in 10,000 will get that Lamborghini, but many of us never see that kind of income. And I said, really? If I work for you, I'll get this Lamborghini. Is that what I'm hearing you say? That's all I said. So, I put myself out there, but he was not charitable in his response a couple weeks later. So, and I was just a comment of many comments, whereas he made this a mainstream post. And I immediately go, how do I handle this? I'm sitting on a Sunday having my coffee, and I reached out to find friend Daniel here on that same Sunday. He's 5 hours ahead of me in my time zones. And I said, Daniel, here's the link. How would you respond to this? And we had a back and forth exchange. It really ate at me. So ultimately, based on Daniel's input and a few other people I trust, I did nothing. I let it go. I said, let's see if this post has got life. It's got its own legs. And it didn't. And it just died on the vine. I went back and looked 4 days later, and there was no other comments. So I handled that right. But in the moment, I was not a happy camper. I was annoyed because I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to be real. I'm trying to be fair. And this is the crap you get sometimes on social media. Daniel, have you ever been engaged in social media where you just are offended, hurt, PO'd? You want to throw the computer and want to throw the phone across the room. No one else is around. They don't know. This is just you. Have you ever been so hurt, offended, whatever, in your dealings?
I mean, there's this one guy, I think his name's Daryl Prell. He keeps saying that social selling, social marketing, and
but he's right.
Yes, it's many times. I'm sure people that are watching this have probably seen some of the comments that have been put on my content over years. I've had some real horrible things said to me. Some people will say things even like, you've never worked in sales. And, look, there are trolls online, but you know what? It even goes back further than that. And one of my funniest memories of where this kind of really happened was when I was working in sales. I was a sales manager, and I'd sent an email out to my sort of team of supervisors with a new bit of training that we were going to run through, ultimately to help them achieve more. And one of my supervisors sent me this email back, basically retaliating against everything. And it was very aggressively written, very undermining. And in that very snap moment of reading that, my blood started to boil. I got very emotionally responsive to it. And I remember my manager was there with me and said, look, you need to go and take 5 minutes. And I had to physically walk around outside for 5-10 minutes just to sort of let things process and sort of help the emotions kind of boil down. But I fully, that situation you just mentioned, Darryl, obviously I remember the situation, and I totally understand why you would feel that way. It's not nice when people play those games, say those things. It hurts. And some people think worse with social media that they can say those things without any accountability. And it's the unfortunate sort of negative side of social media that we see in, business and the personal world. But ultimately we're accountable for ourselves. And, if I'm in ever a position where someone says something negative, I know I just need to process it, let the emotions kind of separate, try and appreciate what may have made them say that and perhaps how hollow that may be, and just try and react in a balanced, mature way if possible.
Have you ever thought about leaving the sales profession? Ever? More than once?
Yes. Yeah, no, many times over my career have I looked into other options that might be less crazy. And I've looked at office jobs. Oh, maybe I'd like to sit at a desk and not have the drama of sales, the pressure of targets, the constant rejection. I mean, granted, I haven't felt like that for quite a few years now, but very much in the early, first of maybe 5 years of my sales career, and even the early stages of sales management, there were many occasions where I used to look at people that worked in the operations departments that kind of just sat there at their desks enjoying cups of coffee and chats and what looked like a far more relaxing job. I know, absolutely not as relaxing, but sales certainly comes with its baggage. But yeah, there's been many times that I've considered it. I guess what's always held me close to it is that I think I'm kind of wired for sales. I do genuinely love it. I do genuinely thrive on it. And as soon as I start to have those good conversations with people where you connect and, you build up good rapport and you can actually help them, that has kind of been the anchor that's kept me to it, because that is what I love deep down. And I couldn't sit at a desk all day long and not have that, the variety, the excitement, the drive, the reward, it outweighs the challenges that come with the role, in my opinion.
So let's kind of recap where we're at. If you're watching this this wonderful interview right now, many of my questions, most of my questions, have been very intentional, because I want to elicit from Daniel the realities of a life in sales. So if you're early in your career, you're in your first 5 years. If you're beyond that, then you know all this already. Is that you're going to have doubts. You're going to have tough days. You're going to get beat up by your colleagues. You're going to get beat up by your prospects. You're going to get beat up by your customers. You're going to get beat up doing the phone. You're going to get beat up on email. You're going to get beat up on social media. And how you respond to it is an intentional choice by you. You need to have the right mindset. That's a skill you have to develop. You need to make a conscious decision. Daniel, through the influence of his uncle, has made a conscious decision that he wants to help people. He believes he has something to help. And that's what gets him up every single day, even though he has to go out and find those people so he can help them. Now, through the course of his helping people, he's built momentum that now people are coming to him. And it's a lot easier for him to help people now than it was back then. But he wasn't always what he is now back then. And he went through a series of jobs. And maybe those series of jobs that you're going to go through right now, you may be distraught, you may be anxious about, but in each of those jobs, you get another skill set. So again, how you choose to look at that is another opportunity to develop a skill set I don't have now that will pay dividends long term. So then, with that all said, Daniel, you got to a point when you discovered LinkedIn and you realized it was a channel you can take advantage of. And initially, you're just using it like any other user. So first off, for those people out there who are saying, I'm not really comfortable, look what Daniel, he was you. He wasn't really comfortable. He had to figure it out. And he didn't go, this is bad. I don't know it. This is nervous. This is scary. He said, let me experiment with it. Let me figure it out as part of my tactics. But then you started getting traction. So for the audience you're looking to develop their career, at what point did you say, maybe I could be more than just a sales rep? Or maybe I like this and I want to transition my career. At what point did you do that? And what was the process that you started? I'm assuming you started to kind of put a plan together about how you could possibly take your career. So at what point, and then how did you plot your course?
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of just echoed it. I started with, I'm not a social media person, and Darryl, you've heard me deliver this in talks that I do. I genuinely am not a social media person. I wasn't someone who lived on Facebook before. Really, I was, and kind of still am. I'm just a salesperson. I'm a traditional salesperson who, lived out there selling to people. So LinkedIn was alien to me. I started with no connections, no personal brand, and no idea how to use it. So trust me, I've made all the mistakes on there. I've sent terrible messages. I've written terrible content. But it's through that I've been able to learn how to use it properly. The tipping point kind of really came in the early stages where I did start to get some traction. When I started to write my own stuff, that was where it sort of really opened up. So as soon as I started to write my first blogs and share my first posts, and I started to get engagement from some people that I didn't know, and started to get responses of people that found value in it, that's where I started to really start to think, okay, there's something bigger here. The tipping point where I started to see an opportunity past my career in sales, I think was where the audience started to grow quite big, where my audience and personal brand started to grow larger than I'd ever anticipated it. And people started to, know me across the world. And then especially when the daily sales started to grow past that 100,000 follower marker, that's where there's sort of light at the end of the tunnel. I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's something else out there where I can build something of my own, which was always my passion. Since I was a kid, I've always wanted to have a business. And, as a salesperson, I don't have a trade. So I can sell someone else's product, but I never had a product to sell. And to sort of start to build potential products to sell was an exciting thing for me. I would absolutely LinkedIn. I was still working in sales and I would love it. I would be doing what I do anyway. But yeah, LinkedIn had kind of given me this opportunity to build something of my own. And again, as you kind of mentioned, ultimately, what I learned, I'm able to pass on and help other people use it properly. As again, you see in the book, salespeople kind of go into autopilot when they use LinkedIn. In the same principle of when you say, sell me this pen, and they start, throwing up features and benefits, they use LinkedIn the same way. They send spammy sales messages. They just post content promoting, their product, and it's switching off that autopilot and just learning how to use it properly. It's not hard, but once you know it, it's a gold mine.
All right. So some of this happened happenstance. You saw traction. Did you intentionally plot a series of steps, milestones? At what point did you say, I got even Siri here's waking up once in a what you did? Did you implement an action plan to move yourself from here to there?
So I never had a plan of sort of taking this to a point of where I am now. There was never, it was really, it's hard with social media to kind of map that out, or it was from someone who's never done it before. For me, it was just taking steps. So growing my personal brand was step one. And, I'm still doing that. This isn't, I'm not at the finish, I'm not at the end line yet. Publishing my first book is part of that process. There's still so many more steps that I can continue to climb in the world of personal brand. So, writing my first blog was kind of, well, I guess setting up a profile was step one, content, step two, and consistency and all these other things help build that up. But I'm still living that journey. Getting to the point of taking it 100%, obviously, which I did last January, so January 2018. For me, it was about building enough business to kind of justify it. I have a sort of a fiance and two kids, and I need to support them. So I can't just jump in, quit my full-time, well-paid sales job, and sort of make it up as I go. I needed those foundations. So ultimately, the thing that allowed me to take it to where it is now was just ensuring I had solid foundations of sort of partners and work that I could then build up on. But all of that was not easy, but it was easier because of the sort of 2 to 3 years I spent on LinkedIn building a personal brand, building an audience, and learning how to use it properly.
So did you build up a series of, I guess maybe freelance gigs while you're working full time to kind of help that transition of the cash flow? So you had enough book of business that you could then springboard off that, which says, for those who are thinking about this, that means he has a base income. Now he's got freelance, so he's got this much income. And now he's going to now lose his base income when now he's down here, which means you probably had to do a couple of things. You had to build up your book of business, but then you also probably had to build up your savings account to manage that transition through.
Yeah, so it was literally July of 2017 where I realized I had the opportunity, but I had a lot of work to do. So between July and December of 2017, I had worked harder than I have ever worked. I had a full-time job. I was head of sales. I had a team of 100 people. So, Monday to Friday, long hours, I was busy anyway, but all evenings, all weekends, I was so driven on making this reality happen. I wanted on January 2018 to be able to go self-employed. And so I worked relentlessly hard to build up enough business in 2018, sort of pre-booked, that at least I knew for that first year that I would be able to generate enough income to support myself and my family, not to the, any luxury, but just enough at a base level that I could then build upon. I can't tell you how much hard work it was. I've never been as tired as I was then, but it was worth it. But yeah, that's what I had to do.
So what was the impact on your family, your relationships, and how did you get them to support you as you made this transition? Because that's scary, right? The household is built on this income. That's scary. So what was the impact and how did you manage that whole, I guess, relational aspect as you transitioned here?
Yeah, so I mean, my family have been so supportive. My partner and our boys have always supported me. I'm forever grateful for that. But of course, as any normal partner would be, she had tons of concerns, and but it was those concerns that kind of made sure I was kept grounded and ensured I covered everything that needed to be covered. So, we worked together to make sure it was done right and that there were minimal mistakes, which just takes away as much of the risk as possible. And I work hard to make sure I spend as much time as possible with my kids. So if I am doing a stint where I'm working a lot, then I'll make sure there is set time that I spend with them after that, where I dedicate as much time to them as possible. So, I'm not saying I always get it right. There are times when I'm perhaps working more than I should, but I try as best I can to balance it out as much. And, I'm in a fortunate position now where I get to do quite a lot of work and be at home with them. And there are days I get to take them to school and pick them up. So the balance has worked out, and they understand if there are times that I have to kind of commit. But look, ultimately, it's not easy. My focus is try and keep that balance as much as I can.
So let's make the transition. You are now here. You have just launched the £1 Million LinkedIn Message, and that's pretty damn cool. Your book is sweet looking. I love that you've got it here. It's on, the tablet. It's on the book. It's pretty sweet. I like that your shirt color matches the book cover. That's well done by the designer. And again, I'm going to tell people this is a book that you have to read. So I guess let me ask you, why would somebody buy another social selling centric book? Why this book?
It's a tough one. Look, it's funny. My oldest son asked me the other day, now that you've got this book out, Dad, are you going to go and sell it to as many people as you can, sell it to everyone? And my kind of answer to him was, again, I don't want to go out and sell it to people. I'm not trying to convince people to buy it. I just want to help those people that are looking to use LinkedIn, are looking to use LinkedIn messaging to generate leads, clients, sales. Those are the people who I believe will benefit from this book. So this book, in terms of what makes it different, I mean, this comes from real experience. None of this is theory. None of this is, oh, here's LinkedIn and its nuts and bolts. This is how I've used it over the years to generate some pretty awesome results. And obviously, this is focused around one central story, which is how a single individual LinkedIn message opened the door to what became a £1 million sale. But as you kind of alluded to earlier, it's also packed with 25 other tried, tested, and proven templates, because there is no one size fits all. So for me, I wrote this book because every single day my LinkedIn inbox is full of horrendous, spammy, poorly written sales messages. I've seen you have posted about it as well, Daryl. I see tons of people posting about it. Some people even share examples. It is a problem in sales, but it can be used well. And if you just, again, turn off that sales autopilot and use it to start authentic conversations, it can be a goldmine and an amazing platform to connect with your prospects, because a lot of your prospects aren't going to answer your calls. They don't want to answer your calls, and your emails are just sitting in amongst 200-300 other emails that sit in their inbox if it's not already been diverted to the junk mail. LinkedIn, for some and for many out there, is something that they're on every day, and sending them a LinkedIn message can be, for a lot of people, one of the most effective ways to start a conversation. It's just about doing it right. That was what really drove me to sort of put this book together.
All right. So this is like the classic late night talk show where we spend all this time talking to the guests about their life, what's going on, tell wonderful stories, and then boom, you've got a movie coming out. You've just issued a book, and they go into the book plug. So now we're going to go into the whole book thing. But instead of talking about your book, because we've done that, I want to drill down on some quick and dirty things. Now the challenge here is that in my wonderful earpiece here, I've got my producer yelling at me that we're running out of time because we've spent so much time on the interview, and God bless him. And I like to scare him and saying, we're fine. So we're going to go in kind of the rapid rounds now. I want to drill down lessons learned, key takeaways that we hear a lot. First question is, I hear this all the time. Why don't my prospects respond to my outreach? Daryl, I'm not getting the engagement you get because I don't have your name. Daniel, you just get this massive likes and comments and views and reactions because you have your name. I don't have that. No one responds to my outreach. Now, my reaction is, dude, there was a time no one responded to my outreach too. But what's your advice on getting people to respond to your outreach?
Same situation. So I started and had no no response, whether it was phone, email, social. Look, we all start there. It takes consistency. My biggest tip is make it authentic, make it genuine. Go, again, it sounds cheesy, but it's go out there to help people. If you're going to start a conversation with someone, whether it's via phone, email, or message, make sure you know or you believe strongly that you can help them. Don't just go ice cold and phone random people hoping that you might be able to, sell them something. Look for people that you can help. When you do that, it's kind of a different game. You don't take the rejection as personally. You just are persistent because you believe that you can help them. So when I sell now, I am looking for and then trying to talk to people I know I can help. And I will try as many different platforms or tools as I can. You're always going to get people that don't respond because people are inundated with sales outreach from multiple methods. So again, a sort of secondary tip to that is try and be different and try and be creative. The easiest way to do that is don't send the spammy sales stuff, because unfortunately still that is what the majority of salespeople are sending. So if you can kind of segue away from that and just send light conversational messages or give value first, those are the little things that kind of cut through that horrendous sales noise that's out there.
So Dana's giving you context from the point of if you've sent a message to them, you're trying to connect, maybe email, one-on-one, direct message, whatever it might be. The other context you're going to get is the context of you're doing posts, right? And no one's responding to your post. No one's commenting on your post. They're just, getting silent. So quick and dirty, some best practices that I've learned over the time that I've been refining my craft here that you can use. A couple things. The first 210 characters of a post are what you preview. All right. So you want to have the teaser copy in that first 210 copies. You don't want to drop off mid-sentence. You want to hook them in that first 210. Next, you've got around, if I recall, 1,300 characters max. So you got a lot of room for hashtags and everything else. So you want to keep your storytelling to 1,300 characters. Next, you want to break it up into visible paragraphs that are spaced out with the extra line. You see that? Those are distinct thoughts because people skim. You want to be short and sweet as much as possible. You want to be authentic, as Daniel talked about. You want to tell a story. You want to get to a lesson learned. You want to share advice. You want to have a call to action at the end. What do you think? Yada, yada. If you can reference other individuals throughout the course of your story and it contextually makes sense. I saw a post the other day from Tag Daniel Disney where he said, blah, that reminded me of this. Further on, upon further review, it was weird because I was listening to Chris Beal of Connect and Sell, tag, and they said the same thing. So what do I just do? I just tagged multiple people in a way that made sense. It wasn't a blatant, please see my story and comment on it. That helps draw your reach. It gets your audience out there. Stupid other things, algorithm things. Don't put a link to a YouTube video in that post. Do it in the comments. You want to upload a video if you're going to have a video. If the video is going to be there, you want to caption it. When you do the post, you want to like it, your own post immediately. You want to comment very fast in the first hour, and then give yourself breaks and go every 2 hours back and start responding back. So keep coming back up in the timeline. Yes, you're gaming the system a little bit, but those are ways to increase your engagement. All right, next up. How do I create LinkedIn templates that work? And I love the idea of templates because that's all about, rinse and repeat. How do I do that?
Kind of do it. But again, those templates need to be conversational. They need to add some value where possible. And short and sweet, as you kind of alluded to with the content tips as well. It's the same for messaging, short and sweet. My biggest tip around LinkedIn messaging is keep it conversational. Don't try and jump in and get a meeting, get a phone call or anything like that straight away. One of the worst sort of message templates that seems to be doing the rounds is this one where it's like, oh, hi, I'm Dan. I sell this. Here's a link to my calendar so you can book a meeting with me. And it's really arrogant sales approach of, I'm more important than you. That's, in my experience, not an effective way of using LinkedIn messaging. Instead, use it to talk to them, either give them some value. Hey, John, really loved that post you shared last week about X and Y. Here are some of my thoughts to it. Would love to chat in a bit more detail about it. It doesn't have to be about I need a meeting or I need to sell you something, which is hard because chances are you've got your managers breathing down your neck and there's pressure on your shoulders that you need to generate sales. But trust me, the results will come in better if you use LinkedIn and messaging just to start those conversations, nurture them a little bit, and turn them into calls and meetings where you're able to then progress those conversations.
Next one. How can I grow my reach and my influence? Quick and dirty. Go for it.
I did a webinar a few weeks about it. If anyone wants a copy of that, drop me a message. It was social selling in 15 minutes a day. So if you want to grow your reach and influence, really, really simple. It's all about consistency and content. Share and engagement. Sorry, three things. So share content every single day. You only have to spend 5-10 minutes writing a post every morning. Share content every day. Make sure it's consistent. Try and make sure it's a daily thing, and then engage in content every day relevant to your industry. Make sure you're immersing yourself in that space. So on a regular, daily, consistent basis, your industry, your audience are seeing your name. They're seeing you provide value in your content, provide value and thoughts and insights in your engagement, in your comments, in your likes and shares. Bit by bit, you will build your reach and influence, but you need to do those things on a consistent basis. It's a simple formula, but if you can commit to it, that's how you'll reap the best results.
So let me elaborate on what he's saying there. We're clear on this, guys. All right. When you share content every day, isn't you sharing somebody else's content? Isn't you sharing an article? You can do that. It's what you creating organic, original, personal content. It's you doing it. Next, when you engage on the comments, it's not about attaboy, I like it, way to go. You can do that. It's about you adding substantive insights and comments to the engagement and provoking conversation. Third point, you have to do this. No excuses. Do that. It will happen. Play the long game. Next up, for you, what are some personal branding techniques that worked for you?
Two top tips with this. Photos. Share photos of you doing different things. Could be you outside of a meeting, you on the train, but it's important to share pictures of you, because you are this brand. It's a personal brand, and people will, it will grow. People associate things by seeing you in these different environments. So, and it could be videos, but just you in these sort of different environments out there and about. And the other piece is share stories. Share stories from your career, stories from what's happening with you right now, things that make you think, I was out there doing this and it made me think of what's happening in the industry right now. I went to a film and this film reminded me of this within our industry. Bring your industry to life, because some people are out there in dry industries, but bring them to life with things that people will associate with things that you're experiencing in life out there. So tell those real, organic, natural stories. Again, consistency ties it together. So pictures of you and good stories.
Everybody's going to say, I don't have the good stories you have. Let me explain this to you. You do. You're in that meeting and someone says something, write about it. Someone gives you a hard time at work, write about it. You have a great phone call, explain why it was a great phone call. You close a deal, explain what made that deal work. There are life lessons at every single step of the day. That's it. Just look for it. All right, we're out of time. I'm sorry. He's really yelling loud in my ears. He's annoying the crap out of me. We got to wrap this puppy up. Daniel, thank you so much for your time today. Again, everybody, please go buy his book. If I need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you, my friend?
LinkedIn is one of the best places. Obviously, that's where I am most of the time. So please, Daniel Disney at LinkedIn, follow me, connect with me, pop me a message. My email address is there as well. I know this went quite heavy into digging to me. I hope people enjoyed that. That's probably the most I've talked about my story in a long time. What I will offer, as we didn't cover we covered some good stuff on the content, I will put together a bit of a guide on LinkedIn messaging, personal branding. Pop it across to Daryl and I'll get him to send it to everyone who's registered so that you get some real takeaway tips as well, just to make sure you get as much value from this as possible.
Daniel, I don't think you get it. Your story is everybody's story. Yes, the content is great. We'll buy your book, but they're here today because they want to learn from you. My name is Daryl Prale, folks. This has been an unplugged session where we have the wonderful, kick-ass individual right over here, Dan Disney. Check him out. Newly released, The Million Pound Message. You can get it on Amazon. Follow him. Follow me. Follow VanillaSoft. Need a sales engagement tool? Go buy that one too. In the meantime, we're out of here. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.